The Joe Rogan Experience.
Meat is the most nutrient-dense, perfect food for humans. It just is.
It's such an exhausting conversation when you say that to people, though. Like you said, I think, you eating all that meat, like what about your cholesterol? What about you? You going to have a heart attack?
Yeah, and it's working its way into policy, which is really disturbing to me, like as a mother. Like New York City public schools, vegan on Fridays now, in addition to meatless Mondays. So now you've got a school system where 70% of the kids are economically disadvantaged and might go home on the weekends. Like they need school lunch, right? And now you're flanking the weekends with nutrient poor both Friday and Monday.
And it's this ideologically driven thing that's based on this idea that if you eat less meat, it's better for the environment, like this thing that they say. And they also say for health purposes, like, they'll cite the China study. Like, it's one fucking study, and like, no matter how much you say, like, hey, you need to read the rebuttals of the China study because they're pretty brutal, and it shows that it's a lot of biased evidence and that they really didn't do a good job of being objective about that.
So there's one thing that's coming up, that's happening right now, that's really interesting. So there's this thing called the global burden of disease, and this is published by the Lancet, and it's what most global food policy is set on. And between their report in 2017 and 2019, meat was 36 times more likely to kill you. And there were some researchers, some friends of mine that pushed back. They wrote a letter to the Lancet, which was blocked. The Lancet, it sounds like, is finally going to be publishing it like over the next couple days.
Finally publishing this thing that says that meat is 36 more times.
Oh no, that's out. The 2019 Global Burden of Disease is out, and I actually had a graphic on that just to show.
What are you saying is going to be published?
So some friends of mine,
rebuttal?
Right, because these guys didn't provide any evidence at all as to why meat. So there's this theoretical minimum risk exposure level that, is supposed to be the safe level of meat you can eat. And it went down to 0. According to these researchers, which is going to be global food policy, you can now eat 0 red meat safely. So that they said they did their own systematic review, but they didn't show any of the evidence, any of the papers they reviewed. And there's no research that's strong that's showing meat is. There's only one randomized controlled trial.
If they're not showing any evidence, they're not showing any papers. How is this science?
Right. And so finally, the Lancet is going to publish this paper where my colleagues are questioning the results and where is the science. And the Lancet, the global burden of disease is the Lancet. So this is a really very big deal.
So I don't understand. Like, what is there? I always thought that with scientific papers, you had to cite sources and you had to. So
up until about 2 years ago, that was pretty consistent. And then I think we've seen a loosening of standards.
Yeah. Here's the difference between 2017 and 2019. So you can see the top part is what we're doing in excess. And you can see that diets high in red meat used to be a very small percentage of like the cause of death globally, which is even a silly thing. But it used to be sodium was much higher. And now meat has gone up. Do you see this? 36 times more likely to be the cause of death.
How is that?
In 2 years.
So this is the study. This is and this analysis, when they're doing this, how are they coming to this conclusion?
Right.
Nobody knows.
Nobody
just tell you?
They're
just saying it.
They're just saying it.
So what is their motivation?
We don't really know.
A little tinfoil hatty. I think that there's a powerful desire to consolidate food production globally, and this is an amazing way to do it. It's as it is. There's I think that 6 or 7 companies produce like 90% of the food that's consumed globally, but what we've seen over time is just more consolidation, and there's this kind of weird interface between tech and venture capital and food. There have been some interesting pieces where folks are looking at food like they want it to be operated like IP, like software. They want you to be able to own the
It's
intellectual
interesting you
property
say that
around
because
it.
Bill Gates is now the largest owner of farmland in the United States.
Yeah.
We looked at that up once. There was some sort of dispute about that, but then we looked at it, said he was.
He wants to
right?
be.
He owns a lot.
He
Put it that
owns
way.
a shitload.
The Gates,
Yeah.
Gates Foundation is one of the major sponsors of this study that I was just talking
so
about.
it's fuckery. So but the thing is, like, he keeps saying that we've got to eat less meat, and we've got to cut our consumption of meat out to be healthy, and that we're going to get used to these meat alternatives. When a guy like that says that, I'm like, are you making money because of this? Like, why are you saying that? And by the way, you look like shit. Like, because if you're eating those plant-based burgers or whatever the fuck you're doing, like, you're obese. Like, a guy like that telling people about he's got these breasts
Moobs.
and this gut, and I'm like, this is crazy. You're one of the richest guys on earth. You have access to the best nutrients, the best. You could have an amazing trainer. You could be in phenomenal shape, and you're giving out public health advice. You're giving out health advice, and you're sick. It's like literally like a non-athlete trying to coach professionals. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? How are you giving any health advice when you look like that? Your health is piss poor. I'm not a doctor. But when you've got man boobs and a gut and you're walking around, you have these like toothpick arms, I'm like, hey, buddy, you're not healthy.